Welcome back to High School Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1, presented by VirginiaPreps.com. Here are your hosts, Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
Back here on the program, we're joined by a special guest. You see him all the time on TV. You hear him all the time on the radio, too, with ESPN. And we're joined by the Major League Baseball analyst, the guru, if you will, Tim Kurkjian. Tim, how's your summer going so far?
It's going great, fellas. And I've got the All-Star game this weekend, kind of in my hometown, so that makes it even better.
Homecoming of sorts. That should be a lot of fun. As the break is fast approaching here, what's been, in your eyes, the top storyline or a couple of storylines of the season to this point?
Well, it's been an interesting year. I did not see three teams in the American League being this great. I knew the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Astros would be really good. But there's a chance all three of them are going to win 105 games or so, and I certainly didn't see that coming. And then on the flip side, no dominant team by any means in the National League. So we have this complete dominance in the American League by three teams, and then the National League seems to rotate every week who's the best team in that league, from Atlanta to Philly to Chicago to Milwaukee to L.A. to Arizona. It's really tough to keep track. So it's just so interesting to me how different the two leagues are at the moment.
With that in mind, Tim, do you think with the trade deadline coming up in a couple weeks, that could shift in terms of the top names on the move or on the block to one of the two leagues, either the National League meet more in play with some of those players, the American League, or do you think that will have no effect at all?
No, I think it'll have a giant effect. For instance, if Manny Machado is traded, and I think he will be, and he goes to a National League contender, it's possible that he is good enough to turn that contender into the best team in the National League going into the playoffs and maybe the team that goes to the World Series. If Arizona gets him, the Diamondbacks really need that another middle-of-the-order guy. What a boost that would be. If somehow the Cubs get him, same idea. The Dodgers need a shortstop and another hitter in the middle with all the other home run hitters they have. And if Milwaukee gets him, and the Brewers are arguably, playing as well as almost anyone this year in the National League, I think it might put them over the top. So I think that's why this final 3 weeks of July is going to be so important, because it could tell us what we're going to be watching in October.
Hey, Tim, Ed Young here. You mentioned some of the top hot teams and whatever. Is there any team or two out there that really disappointing that you didn't see that part coming, that they would be that maybe that bad or not playing as well?
Yeah, I thought the Angels would be better than this, but the Shohei Ohtani injury and some other injuries certainly hasn't helped their situation. I thought the Nationals would be way better than this, and they're basically a 500 team. Again, injuries have really hurt them, and lack of production from people who usually produce. And on a completely different level, I just did not see the Orioles or the Royals being this bad. I mean, they're on the way, both of them, to potentially having more losses at the All-Star break than any team since the All-Star game was founded in 1933. To have two teams in the running for that in the same year, when I didn't see either team being close to this bad, that's been a surprise also.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, too. I think Baltimore, Kansas City are major surprises. And, of course, the Nationals. I'm amazed that the Phillies are on top in the East. When you mention the Angels, key thing with us around here, they got one of our local guys, Justin Upton. I know they're not going to get rid of Trout or Ohtani now, but could Upton be moved at the deadline?
Well, he could be, but I think they're going to hang on to him. He just signed a long-term extension, and they really want him there, and they should. And they're not out of it yet. As disappointing as they've been, when you've spent this much money and you have Mike Trout and Albert Pujols and Shohei Ohtani, I don't think you can trade one of your key players and give up on a season when there's still, I think, potentially a wild card to be won. Now, it's not going to be easy. In fact, I think it's unlikely for the Angels, but I don't think when you play where they play and with the expectations for that team this year that you can give up. So I say Upton stays, and I think he should stay because he can really help that team.
Talking with ESPN Major League Baseball analyst Tim Kurkjian. You want to hop in here with a question real quickly for Tim? You can do so at 757-687-9494. Give us a call at 757-687-9494 or hit us up on Twitter at HS Sports Talk 941, HS Sports Talk 941. And Kevin wants to know on the Twitter sphere, what do you think of the San Francisco Giants? Will they make a move before the deadline, Tim?
I think they'll go get some help, but they don't have a whole lot to help with, meaning their farm system I just don't think is stocked to go get maybe what they need. I think what they have to hope for is Evan Longoria comes back and then starts to hit when he comes back. They get Joe Panik healthy again. They get Buster Posey's hip healed a little bit where he's a more productive player the second half. I don't see them being a real active team, but they're still going for it, and their thinking is if we can ever get healthy, and now we've got Bumgarner back throwing really well again, we can win a winnable division, and I think that's where their sights are.
Very much so. That National League West has got 4 teams all within 3 games of each other with the Giants, Rockies, Arizona, and the Dodgers. Moving over to the Mets, everybody watching what the Yankees are doing, but the Mets, I saw a stat the other day, Tim, I believe 10 times this year they've been scoreless through the 5th inning, which is just mind-boggling. Will they unload one of those pitchers, DeGrom or even possibly Syndergaard?
I don't think so. Both of those guys are so good. They are difference makers for a contending team. They can turn a contender into a champion. That's how good they are. But these are the Mets, and they play opposite the Yankees, and they're not in a very good position at all to unload their best players before the trade deadline. So I think they're going to keep them both. If the Mets are ever going to be any good again, they're going to need DeGrom and Syndergaard at full strength at the top of the rotation. They need to find some people around them, but they need to build around both of those guys and get some better players in there. Trading them makes sense. I understand that, but it's a different dynamic in New York, and I would hang on to both of them, hope they can get healthy and get some more people healthy and be a much better team next year.
Tim, of course, you know I'm a big Yankee fan. I was a little skeptical when they hired Aaron Boone. Some of those moves at the beginning of the year, I was wondering, but obviously they're in full sail right now. But with that being said, you look at Severino, who's just done a tremendous job. Twice more wins than anybody else on that staff. It seems like they have to get a pitcher. And I've even heard rumors, you would know way better than me, that even in that division they may be able to get somebody like an Archer out of Tampa Bay or Happ out of Toronto. Then I heard on one of the broadcasts, I think it was the national broadcast or whatever, but they jumped it back in the race for Machado and maybe Zach Britton from the Orioles. Can that even be possible?
Well, anything is possible at the trade deadline. And, yes, they're in with both feet on Machado. They're trying to get him. But I'm with you, Ed. They need a starting pitcher first. But I'm just not sure, say, Jay Happ of the Blue Jays is the answer to what they need. They need a guy to go number 2 behind Severino and be a guy that can beat the Astros or match up with the number 2 starter in Houston, Boston, Cleveland, whatever. And I'm just not sure that guy is out there at the moment. And if they recognize we can't get the starting pitcher that we need first, then we got to go for the best player, and that's Machado. So my guess is they're not going to get Machado, but my guess is they're going to get a starting pitcher, but I don't see it being Syndergaard or DeGrom. It's going to be a level lower than that, and then there's going to be a question, is that going to be enough?
Couple more minutes here with Tim Kurkjian, ESPN Major League Baseball analyst extraordinaire, here with us on ESPN Radio 94.1 High School Sports Talk, presented by VirginiaPreps.com. Dennis wants to know about the Brewers. What will they do? And Tim, last year they weren't too active at the deadline. Do you think with their record at the moment and knowing that the Cubs are right there with them, that they'll be a little bit more, active trying to make a move?
Yeah, they were active last winter, getting Christian Yelich and Lorenzo Cain. We all thought they'd go get another starting pitcher, Jake Arrieta, and they didn't. So maybe the way it's been explained to me, they're going for it now, and Manny Machado is very high on their list. I think they have enough to put a package together to get Machado. But the question is, are they going to pull that trigger, and are they going to beat out the Yankees, the Diamondbacks, the Cubs, the Phillies, the Dodgers, all these other teams that have interest in Machado? But I think the Brewers, who haven't won in a while and haven't been to the World Series in a long time, really need to do something, and I think now's the time to do it with Manny Machado. Let's see if they can put a package together that pleases the Orioles.
Of course, Tim, we're talking about all these situations going on in the Boston Red Sox, which I thought at the beginning of the year was still the team to beat. So hot, so far out there. Will they be the team that really everybody's going to chase, or would you say right now at the All-Star break that's a World Series winner?
That's a World Series contender, but so are the Yankees, and so are the Astros, and so are the Indians if the Indians can go get a couple of quality relievers, which I fully expect them to do. I think the American League is clearly better than the National League at this point, but this is baseball. There are no guarantees, but the Red Sox have a terrific offense. J.D. Martinez has changed everything there, not just with his production, but with the way he carries himself. Mookie Betts has latched on to him, is now even a better hitter and a better player than he was last year or the year before. So I really like the Red Sox. It's impossible to not like the Red Sox. But again, with the Yankees and the Astros in the same league, that is going to be one hellacious American League playoffs.
Tim, I'd ask you right now at the All-Star break, MVP in each league, Cy Young winner in each league.
Well, that's really hard, but I'll say Mookie Betts is the MVP of the American League, slightly over Jose Ramirez and Mike Trout. Of course, Trout is always right there. National League, very close also. I'll go with Freddie Freeman, just given what he has done for the Braves to help lift that franchise and help those young players. AL Cy Young is so close. There are like four great candidates, but for the moment, I'll go with Chris Sale, but Verlander, Severino, Kluber, they're all great. I'll take Sale given the strikeout rate and the wins and everything else. And the National League Cy is really difficult also. Max Scherzer's been great. But Jacob deGrom has a 1.68 ERA. That's pretty good for me. So really great races in the MVP and Cy Young so far.
Hey, Tim, one of my final questions, and this thing's been bugging me like crazy. Is it true that baseball is going to look into abandoning disallowing the shifts? I think it's neat to see managers put shifts on certain players. Why would they ban the shift?
Well, some people think the shift is bad for baseball. I'm not in that camp. I think when somebody shifts against you that violently, then you as a hitter have to make an adjustment. And it's not an easy adjustment, especially with the pitching you're facing today. But I think it's an incumbent on the hitter to say, well, if they're going to play 3 or 4 guys over there, it's my responsibility to learn how to hit it over there and hit it hard over there and hit it with production over there. So that's where I think we are. I don't think we're going to see any sort of outlaw in shifting, but we may see slight adjustments to it. Just another of the things we'll talk about this winter about for next season.
Well, my thing is, if you don't like the third baseman playing over second base, bunt the doggone ball.
Right.
You know,
got to try it. These pitchers are too good today to just keep the same swing you've had. You got to try something new, and that's up to the hitters to make that adjustment.
Hey, Tim, who you got in the home run derby?
Well, I got the local favorite, Bryce Harper. There are some really good guys in this year's, but I think Harper, given the year he's had, the year his team has had, feels like maybe he can win back some people and everything else, and get some real good feeling around the ballpark if he hits a bunch of homers, and I think he will. To me, he's the odds-on favorite to win, so I'm picking him.
Well, it should be a fun week of the All-Star break here. We'll be watching. You'll listen to you, Tim Kurkjian. You can follow him on Twitter, too, at Kurkjian_ESPN. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon, Tim.
Okay, guys. See you.
Thanks, Tim.
That is Tim Kurkjian, ESPN Major League Baseball analyst and award-winning author.